Hey guys, Marsinger here, bringing another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. And so we have the EZA for Physical Goten and Trunks coming out tomorrow on both versions of the game. It will be dropping at 9 AM UK time, which I believe is like 1 AM PST, 4 AM EST. So basically it will be coming out. This video is going up at 10 PM UK time. So the event will be coming out 11 hours after this video drops, if you are catching it as soon as it comes out. But yeah, basically it's the normal time that events drop on JP. The EZAs for this celebration have been dropping at this time, so should be used to it by now. But yeah, Physical, Goten and Trunks, their Extreme Z battle, good old 30 stage EZA coming out tomorrow. So this stage, being a normal 30 stage EZA, just has the weakness category, don't need to worry about legendary power. And the weakness category for these guys is artificial life forms. Now, the other thing with normal 30 stage EZAs is you do still have the certain typings will get massively reduced damage and therefore are not particularly worth using. For this event, all extreme characters are fine. Only super STR characters will be usable. Basically every other super type, AGL, Tech, Physical and Int, will suffer from that 80% reduced damage, which essentially means unless they're on the team to be a strong defensive unit, then you know they're not going to be doing damage, so they're not necessarily going to be a unit that you want to run. So we probably won't mention any superclass units outside of one who we'll be talking about straight away. I mean, you can guess who it is, right? Because you can see here who the two main leaders of the category are. And I believe that's probably why they made it so that Super STR could still be viable for the event, right? Because for a lot of people, he might be the only artificial life forms leader that you actually have. So just like with all my team building guides, we are going to go through the top picks and honorable mentions for the event. If there's any units you think I missed out or should have talked more about, do let me know down below in the comment section. And if you find the video useful at all, do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So straight away, let's jump in. And of course we have the STR Gamma 1. So he is an artificial life forms leader for 170. Accelerated battle or worthy rivals units get the extra 30% for the 200. I think he's one of the only 200% leaders on this team. I think there is potentially one other one, but they don't have artificial life forms as one of their base leads, so they can be a bit more tricky to use. But this guy obviously can be very, very good. He has an entrance animation with guard for 4 turns, which for an EZA is going to last pretty much the whole thing. He's not restricted in any way by having superclass allies or superheroes or anything like that. So he can lead a full team of extreme artificial life forms characters. And he has links like Android Assault, which obviously he'll share with a bunch of other Android units, which give a pretty significant defensive buff. So this guy can definitely be very good. If you're running double Gamma 1 leads, you pretty much have your slot 1 units like sorted for both rotations. And then you can just kind of sit back and let them tank in slot 1. Still do relatively good damage because Super STR can still do damage in this event. And then they should be all good. So Gamma 1, definitely a top choice for the leader for the team. We also have, of course, the Tech Exchange Boo that got the EZA during Golden Week. They lead artificial life forms for 3 key and 170 as well. If you are bringing any margin power characters on the team, which of course, you know, we're going to talk about a bunch of those because all boos are artificial life forms, they get an extra key as well. These guys can be really, really good. Like as long as you have the margin power ally in the same turn, they get a bunch of damage reduction. There's no margin power enemy, so they get their extra stats. So these guys are just straight up like really, really good. And then of course they transform into the Evil Boo on their next turn, right? So chances are EZAs usually are 3 to 4 turns, potentially 5 if you're going for the tougher stages or you're bringing more defensive units. So you might see the Evil Boo come out. And then, of course, he has damage reduction and dodge. So this guy, very, very good and can be a solid leader for having an artificial life forms build, giving that a little bit of extra key if you want to run other martian power characters. Then we have the Inbu. So this guy, despite having type disadvantage, he's not an artificial life forms character, but obviously one strategy for this event is just to run the full Boo team. And so you can either run Tech Boo as your lead if you don't have this guy and then run him as a friend, He of course has the ability to revive, which if you are trying to do like the later stages past stage 30, or you're just potentially struggling with the later stages, having this guy on the team for that revival can be very, very helpful. So if you want to run the full Boo team, this guy, good choice for a leader despite the type disadvantage. Otherwise, you can still slot him in on the artificial lifeforms build, and he can be super good for having that revival. You do want another Boo Saga ally on the team for him to get his intro and stuff, but realistically, you'd want to run another Boo character for his links and everything anyway. So as long as you're running another Boo unit to link this guy up with, you're going to get his entrance animation condition, and then he will be very good. And of course, the Boo units provide a lot of healing to the team, which is really good for things like an EZA where you can't use items, and so abilities that can heal you can obviously be very, very useful. So we also have the Cellmax. So of course, obviously for global, and I think JP, right, he's only been on his original banner, so not everyone's going to have him, I appreciate, but he is an artificial lifeforms leader for 4 key and 150%. Even though the leader skill is a little bit lower than some of the top tier leader skills, he of course is a crazy good unit. So if you're someone who doesn't have him and you're putting together an artificial lifeforms team, I mean, he could still be a viable option to be the friend leader, because he's going to be able to do tons of damage. The active skill turn, as long as you have all artificial lifeforms, you can use from the 4th turn of battle. So if you have this guy on like turn 2 and then he comes back on turn 4, he can use his active skill, which at that point you're probably killing the enemy, and then if not, he's going to take all the attacks for the turn, get built up, and then you probably win that turn regardless. So Cellmax definitely a very solid option. Obviously if you do have him but you have these other choices for the leads, he's just a top pick to put on the team, right? Especially for this event in particular, because he's an artificial life form, he's got type advantage, and you know, he's still one of the best like top tier units in the game. So of course he is a top pick for this event, but he can be a leader as well. And then we have the LR Baby with his EZA. He's another artificial lifeforms lead, 4 key and 150. Because you're fighting a hybrid Saiyan enemy, he does get some extra buffs. He does have the giant ape transformation when HP is 40% or less. So again, he's a unit that if you're finding the later stages a little bit tougher, if you get him on rotation after taking a bunch of damage, you can then get that golden grey ape transformation, which gives you a couple of turns of free damage and can potentially just end up winning you the fight at that point, right? So this guy definitely still a solid unit, fits in nicely on this artificial lifeforms team. A lot of these characters on the team, like the Cells and of course Cellmax himself, have big bad bosses, so this guy can fit in quite nicely, and you're fighting a hybrid Saiyan enemy, so it is perfect for him. Then we have the free-to-play Prime Battle Tech First Form Cell. He's an artificial lifeforms leader for 4 key and 130. We're getting to like the lower end of the scale now here in terms of leaders, but obviously as a free-to-play unit, he is an option that, you know, everybody will be able to have potentially. For those of you who don't have the summonable units that we've talked about so far, in theory, although you have to do the Prime Battle grind, obviously, everybody can have this unit, right? So you can have an artificial lifeforms lead, 4 key, 130, run a friend with a better leader skill, and have the more powerful team like overall. So this guy, still a solid option. He heals on his 12 key super, which can be useful. Does relatively good damage. His links are a bit weird for other cells, but he does have big bad bosses as well, so he can fit nicely on the team. And yeah, he can be a solid option and a last resort leader if you need it. Now, one of the other options is these guys right here. So join forces or target Goku are their 170 leads, and then they give 30% to androids. So obviously a lot of the cell units are on this team. A lot of other androids that we haven't got like top picks in this guide, but we'll talk about some of them at the end, who will fit on this guy's 200% leader skill. They have type advantage. They're fighting a super class enemy, so they're getting their full passive active. So you could make a team running the double 17s. The only problem is you're a bit more restricted because of their leader skill. So this means you can't run units like Cellmax, any of the Boo characters. So I think realistically, it's probably better to run a slightly lower percentage artificial lifeforms leader and then be able to run those other stronger top tier characters rather than run these guys as a leader and then restrict your team building options. But, you know, if you don't have any other options, this guy, you can make a team using their leader skill, and you'll have a bunch of androids on the team who are artificial life forms that will make this team work, right? So that can still work well as well. So now as we get onto units to put on the team, so I've got this guy open because the wiki doesn't have a page for the LR yet, but they both have the same name, right? So you can only use the LR or the EZA free-to-play one. Now, for some people, you're either going to take the Prime Battle EZA grind slow, so maybe when the EZA drops, because the Prime Battle LR Broly drops 2 hours before the EZA comes out. So for some people, like myself included, I'll be doing it on stream, we'll have the LR Bio Broly ready to go when the EZA comes out, and then you can just use him on the team, and obviously he's going to be very strong. But for those of you that can't be bothered to do that or do it all like so quickly, you can just jump in and do the Extreme Z area for the Tech Bio Broly, and then you can throw him on the team. This guy, as like a floating unit, seems like he can be pretty solid in some of these events, like post supering against one enemy. He does have, what, 90% damage reduction on turn 1. So he's a unit that you can throw into this event and you don't really need to worry about him dying. Even in the higher stages, like plus stage 30, because he has 90% damage reduction, like post super, he shouldn't really be taking damage on the first turn. And then even on the second turn he appears he has 70%. So he should still be relatively good. So this guy can actually be a decent option for the team. Obviously he doesn't have big bad bosses, unlike the LR version. So I would say if you are someone who is going to get on that grind straight away for the Prime Battle LR Bio Broly, obviously he will be the better option for the team, because of course you can't use both of them. Can't use same name units in an EZA. So the LR one would be the top choice, but for those of you who don't want to do the grind that quickly, this guy with his EZA will certainly be a viable option as well. And of course he drops the same time, like the EZA comes out 2 hours before this Extreme Z battle. So this guy will be, normally to do an Extreme Z area for a free-to-play unit, it should only take like 20 minutes or so, depending on whether you get lucky, I guess, with the question mark things as well. It can take a little bit less time, but you can have this guy ready to go. The DB story that you farm him from is getting revamped, so you can grind out the couple of extra copies, get the SA5 one that you need to get him to SA15 for free. Like all of that stuff, like it still takes a little bit of like farming, but you can easily get that done within the 2 hours, right? So it's definitely easier to get this guy EZA'd than it is to get the Prime Battle one fully LR'd and ready to go. But obviously this guy's a viable option as well. Then we have our boy Hatak. Now he is a Battlefield LR. So obviously the issue with Battlefield currency has been a big thing for a little while now, but if you do have Hatak, he can be useful for this. Like even on the anniversary on JP, before we'd gotten all the boo buffs from the worldwide celebration for global, people were using this guy for the artificial life forms mission against Beast Gohan, because he's actually pretty solid against a pure or hybrid Saiyan. He has what, 40% damage reduction, and a little bit of extra ki. Post super his defense is alright, and so obviously with 40% damage reduction on top of that, especially in an event like an EZA, which isn't super hard, then this guy should be able to tank relatively well. I mean, to be honest, he should be tanking supers even probably up to stage 30. It's only really when you go past that that you start getting like weaker defensive units are getting one shot by super attacks. So this guy should be very good on the team, but of course, as I say, being a Battlefield LR, he's not necessarily a character that everybody has or wants to spend those limited Battlefield resources on, because there's not really a lot of places you're going to end up using this guy, but here is finally one of them, and he is another character that has big bad bosses, so he's another character that can work nicely on the team with some of the other options. Then we have a few of the other Boo units to talk about. So we have the LR Boo tanks that transforms into Buhan. This guy obviously doesn't lead artificial life forms, but if you want to go for that full Boo team build and you're missing the Inbu and the Tech Exchange Boo, this guy can obviously be a very solid leader. Power Absorption also has some artificial life forms androids on it, like Super 17 and stuff like that, so you could use this guy as a leader to make a full artificial life forms team very easily. Post EZA, this Boo tanks is really good. You can transform into Buhan from turn 4, which, as we've said, you know, is usually going to be around the last turn. But if you do transform him, he picks up big bad bosses, He hits really hard, has all the healing and stuff like that. So I mean, he can be very, very good. If you're running the Boo like centric team, this guy is definitely one of the go-to picks for the team, right? And then we also have the AGL Super Boo. Now, interestingly enough, I had to double check before just to make sure, but this guy is not going to get his guaranteed guard because you don't have a Boo Saga or Fused Fighters enemy. Funnily enough, the AGL Gotenks, the physical Trunks, and the STR Android 18, who all have the art from the Bio Broly movie poster, they are all considered Majin Buu Saga, right? Much like the Go Bros are considered Buu Saga. However, the physical Goten and Trunks are not considered Buu Saga, even though they're still the same characters, right? I mean, literally the physical Trunks and AGL Goten, like I just said, are from the art from the movie poster for Bio Broly, but they are on Buu Saga. However, the physical Goten and Trunks are not. So bear that in mind. This guy won't be getting his guaranteed guard, but post super attack he should still be very good. The only time he's going to be potentially a liability is if he's getting super attacked in the later stages, but even then he should still be able to survive. And if you are running that Buu team build, obviously you have lots and lots of healing on the team. So then we have the Fat Buu that got his EZA, Majin Buu Good. He has a unique name compared to the Inbu as well, I believe. Actually, no, wait, the Inbu is called that, isn't he? Yeah, so you can't use both of them. So this guy will be good on the team, but you can't use the Inbu. I mean, if you've got the Tech Exchange Buu or the physical Buu tanks, perfectly fine to just run them as the leader and then run this guy, because he is a nuker with type advantage. So whilst the Inbu offers a lot of extra utility and stuff like that, he has got type disadvantage. So he's not going to be doing as much damage unless, you know, he's getting crits. Whereas this guy, you know, changes orbs, can get an additional attack. Like, he can do loads of damage. In the early phases, he could probably quite easily one-shot a bunch of the stages. So depending on how you want to build the team, the Inbu offers the better leader skill. So overall, all of the units will be doing a little bit better. But this guy, in terms of individual performance in this event specifically, is definitely going to be doing a lot more damage than the Inbu. So worth considering which one of those you want to use if you do have both of them. Then we have the Tech Buu, who was the banner unit for the Int Fat Buu. This guy, I always forget like exactly what he does because I didn't pull him during Golden Week, but have since pulled a bunch of other characters, copies of him from these other banners. So he has built-in crit chance and dodge chance. If you've got all marching power allies, he gets additional super and does guaranteed crits. He gets extra stats on super. If you have a certain amount of HP, he gets extra stats and he also heals himself. He can survive KO attacks as well. And then if HP is 40% or more, he has a high chance to nullify Ki Blast super attacks as well. He recovers HP. I mean, we don't get the orbs in these events, but he's got a lot of really, really strong abilities. So this guy, if you have him, is probably like a go-to choice for the Buu team. Then we have the physical Kid Buu. So this guy with his super EZA, obviously crazy good support unit, really good damage reduction that builds up as he gets hit. So I mean, this guy, even if you're running any other build, like even if you're running a full artificial lifeforms build with like Cellmax as the leader or Gamma 1 as the leader or something like that, and you have no other Buu units on the team, I feel like this guy is probably like a top pick auto include, right? Just because of all the ridiculous amount of support that he's giving. He has big bad bosses. I mean, if your starting rotation is like Cellmax and this guy, then you're going to just one turn a bunch of these phases, right? Because Cellmax will have big bad bosses, have the support from this guy, put him in slot 1, potentially gets hit a couple of times, and then off he goes, right? And then you win. So physical Kid Buu, definitely a top pick for this event. If you don't have him, there is the STR one, who is quite old at this point, but for an EZA could definitely still be usable. Because that's the thing with the Buu team, you do have to remember, of course, the same name limitation. So on the full Buu team, you want to be using the different forms of Buu. But yeah, physical Kid Buu is definitely the go-to choice. And then last but not least, for an honourable mention, we have the Int Android 16. We haven't mentioned a lot of Int units, but obviously he does have the high chance to guard when allies in the same turn are Android/Cell Saga characters. So depending on how you build the team, if you want to build it with a bunch of Androids and other Cell units, this guy can be a relatively decent slot 1 defensive unit. He is the free-to-play version. There is, of course, the this guy, the summonable one that got his easy A, who is probably the better choice, to be fair. He just has guard. I got the two mixed up because they're both in. The other one is the free-to-play, like, Super Strike one. But this guy actually really, really good as well. Has guard, has damage reduction, which builds up as he takes hits. You're obviously not going to have the Gohan on the team, but this guy can be very good and can be run under leads of any artificial life forms or androids unit, right? So this guy can certainly be very good on the team as well. Now, if we go back to artificial life forms in general, for some other like picks, we have characters like, I left out some of the int units like Cell, LR Cell. If he's getting crits, you know, he could do decent damage. LR Super 17 is just, you know, if you're going to run a Super 17 on the team, the AGL one with his Easy A is still relatively good. And obviously you got like Android 13. Those guys are androids. They're on target Goku and like power absorption, so they'll fit under that STR 17s or the physical Buu leader skill, Buu tanks into Buhan. So there are some solid options. There's not a lot of extreme AGL characters that I think are top picks, but obviously like you could run him with the LR Baby, I suppose. There is the 50% support Rildo, who could be relatively decent. Tech units, I think we talked about most of these guys. There are a few extreme tech units on the team, so if you have the 60% support Tech Cell, obviously he could be relatively useful as well. He also has big bad bosses. Didn't mention a bunch of the int characters, obviously, because they have type disadvantage. The full metal coolers are on here. So, I mean, if you have no other option, you could run the full free-to-play metal cooler team, and that would get you through at least most of the event. I assume with the right RNG, you would be able to beat the full 30 stages, obviously using the friend LR metal cooler. And if you have your own physical LR metal cooler, you'd use him as the leader. We have this Super Buu that can transform. I mean, if you have more copies of him, because obviously the AGL one is a yellow coin LR, this guy on the team instead of the AGL one could be decent for you. Like if you've, because he's quite an older unit, if you have him rainbowed and everything, he would be pretty solid in this event. The physical, we didn't mention the physical Buu tanks, that's just the TUR Easy A one, because he shares the same name as the LR, and the LR of course is by far the best one to use. And then there's the 60% support Buu. Crazy that like 3 of the 60% supports for Extreme are all on artificial life forms. But yeah, if you're running like the physical Buu tanks, the Kid Buu, obviously the new Bio Broly is physical. So this guy on the team could actually be very useful if you have him. I know not everybody has the 60% support units, but there you go. So those are my top picks and honorable mentions for an artificial life forms team build for this event. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. As I said at the very beginning, if you think there's any units I missed out or should have talked more about, do let me know down below in the comment section, and let me know what your team build looks like for the physical Goten and Trunks Extreme Z battle. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.